All right, hard yarners. Before we get into our incredible guest, is it Konrad Benjamin? Is that the?
That's what I'm going by. Yeah,
the Punters Politics. You probably know him better by. But if you're watching at home, you'll be able to see behind him our incredible sponsors, alltradescover.com.au. If you need any sort of insurance as a tradie, specifically the small guy, the punters. Actually, the sole traders, any sort of insurance you need. I'm not going to give you an example because we'll get in trouble, and legally they might not cover you. So, but I am getting my liability insurance for my event coming up, Return to Zero. So they're good with a lot of things. Alltradescover.com.au. Drop our name and hopefully we get a bit of money out of it. That would help us, and that helps you guys because we get to provide some incredible guests week to week. This episode is also brought to you by Goat Tape. Do you actually do like any breath work or anything like that, or
I've done it a few times in Bali. When you're there, you're like getting in the breath work team.
That's awesome. Do you exercise? Did I see you run or anything like that? No.
I did just sign up for a Spartan race, but I'm more like a gym bro split kind of guy, so I'm wholly untrained for the 21K I'm about to.
Perfect. Well, I've been using it a lot. Do you know what? They do the mouth tape as well, and I've been using that the last few nights. Fucking game changing. I thought the nose tape was really good, which it is.
You're a bit of a mouth breather.
Definitely. And what it's been doing, it's just been training my nose to breathe correctly and not the shallow breath. Fuck, you wake up, you just shoot out of bed. So there must be... I should get them to give me some talking points for the actual data and notes and citations.
Well, yeah, good to see.
About what it actually does, but it definitely aids in recovery, especially overnight. So get around, Goat Tape, hard yarn, code word, you'll get a percentage off. Also, this episode is brought to you by Feed. Supplement, animal-based, so if you're wanting the bioavailable supplements, which generally they get pissed out, so the actual bioavailability of these supplements is great. They've got beef liver, they've got organ complex, they've got oysters, they've got collagen, honey, they've got the lot. I've been using the collagen, don't know if you can tell, and the honey, all of the beef liver, it's really good. It's just great to get what you need into you before you start your day. And then if we live in a very busy world. Sometimes you can't eat a very balanced diet. So it's good to get that stuff in. And finally, they're going on a break after this episode because they are relaunching some stuff, going through a bit of redevelopment. Don't worry, they're going to be back. But Kahuna Golf, the hat I always wear, Kahuna Golf, look good, feel good, play good. They're coming up with a great new, I've been alluding to it over the last few months, that they're getting a new product and a new sort of launch of a look. And they're also collaborating with us to do a shirt. So they're just going offline for a couple of weeks because they've sold out of all their stock because we've been so popular by pushing it. But Kahuna Golf, look good, feel good, play good. Thank you so much for your time that you've been a sponsor for the last, I think, year or maybe even longer. Jimmy, absolute legend, will be back in a couple of months with a very exciting launch that he's got coming up. But thanks to all of those sponsors. Hard yarn is the code word and you get 10 to 15% off. But we were joined by the great man, the Punters Politics, all the way from, where are you based? Over
Newey.
Yep, awesome. And good to have you over in Perth launching your billboards. So that was bloody awesome. But do you recall, there's a lot covered in that conversation, but do you recall what we chatted about?
Politics and how we're getting scammed.
Mate, that's a very good summation, I think. Really appreciate your time, mate. Really good episode. And I think our punters and hard yarners are going to love this episode. So easy. Let's get hard.
Welcome to Hard Yarns Podcast.
I am fucking fat.
Anything Chris White says, please disregard it.
5D is actually a state of being. It's a unity consciousness.
That was Hard Yarns with me, Frankie Rose. So I'm going to throw it over to your co-host,
Daniel Delby.
And Cameron Branch.
I would do this and then I'd gong.
Free in attendance for the millions listening at home. Let's get hard.
That's good. Fuck yeah. All right. Fuck. This has been, I feel like a long time coming. This has been good. We've been chatting a bit online.
Texting back and forth.
Good. Very good to have the in-person. I've been saying to a lot of people that the Zooms, they don't quite work. They become an interview.
Yeah.
I want this to be more of a chat and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but firstly, mate, thank you so much for joining us and coming on. And I guess for the people at home that don't know, probably rare. Give
don't know.
us an explanation to who you are and how you've fallen into what you do.
If you're a millennial, you have no bloody idea what I'm doing. I was looking at my demographics. Actually, I was talking to my brother who was talking to some people at his work. He's like, oh, my brother does this. And he's like, they had no idea who you were. I'm like, how old are they? He's like 21. I'm like, yeah. They'll be back in 5 years when they realize they can't buy a house or own anything. And they'll be there. So my name's Konrad. I run the channels Punters Politics, which essentially the goal is to explain politics for the everyday punter, make it simple. Politics is complex. We're bombarded with a whole bunch of bullshit narratives and it's called politics. Yes. And I'm trying to pull out the things that are important, the higher level stuff to go, if you're going to pay attention to politics, here's some basic simple things to pay attention to, because to be honest, we shouldn't really have to pay attention to politics, I think.
I agree.
That's why we employ politicians. It's your job to do politics. I elected you to do that. Now I can go do what I need to do.
Yeah.
But they've sold us out to vested interests. They're padding their pockets. They're taking cushy gigs.
Yeah.
Now we have to look over their shoulder and micromanage them and be like, hang on, show us your voting record. What's going on? Why didn't you vote? You said you'd do this. Why didn't you do it? So now we have to pay attention and hold them accountable. Yeah. And then hopefully, if all goes well, we can all stop paying attention again.
Well, this is the dream. And this is what I've been fucking battling with. And listeners would know over the last few weeks, I've not enjoyed. It's become heavy. It's heavy, constantly having it in your life. I don't know what it's like for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get disillusioned. You're like, what does it matter? Like everything that you can point out, which you're doing fucking incredible work pointing out the tax stuff, which we can chat about soon. But does that get heavy on you?
I think it can. But I think when I entered into it, I had to be really focused about what I focus on, what I talk about, and what my goal is. Yeah. Because it's exactly as you say. Politics is like this. I'm unfortunately now at a level where I can't engage in the comments as much as I used to, and I can't read stuff because you get to a certain critical mass of following.
Yeah.
And then the Australian instinct, that Poppy's looking a little tall.
Yeah.
If that guy cut it and also think online's full of bots.
Yeah.
And so I've just gone, I don't know the percentages because we don't force tech companies to tell us how many bots there are, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Like we bloody should, by the way. So we all know. How about you make bots illegal? And penalize these tech companies for having bots.
Agreed.
Because they shape our whole conversation and consciousness. So many people, you probably myself included, are sitting there being like, oh, screw this guy, man. Oh, how dare you? And it's literally just an AI bot that you're arguing with.
Yeah.
So I just choose to believe that anyone that I read and go, you are an idiot. I just think, it's probably a bot.
Yeah.
And even if it is or it isn't, it doesn't matter. I just get to not engage and go, that's fine.
Well, regardless, I've always thought of it, and you don't realize it until you sort of look at something maybe that you've done yourself, where you might comment something a bit
a little bit pointed.
But yeah, you're poking someone on someone's thing, you completely forget about it, and 2 days later you get a response. You're like, oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So you just
it's true.
If you think about it,
it's gone.
If you think about if that's what you're thinking, they're thinking the exact same thing. So just don't even say anything.
The negative stuff, it does get in your head.
Yeah.
It sits there. You read one negative comment and so that's what I've had to, you just kind of detach, because there's certain things you talk about as you're discovering. There's certain things you say, there's certain buzzwords and landmines that you step on that are toxic. And I think it just gets to you when you're having to navigate this sort of world where anything you say about certain topics and certain things is
polarizing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. And you become an icon for somebody else to hate, to love.
Yeah. And this is what I'm very conscious of at the moment. We can start with this because me and you have had a few conversations about tribalism, which I definitely I've fallen into plenty of times. I think everyone falls into that, and you can see it most evidently in the American politics and left or right, Democrat, Republican. What I noticed even with that stuff, like the conspiracy theories, that some of them end up true, but now people are calling out things the other way, like against Trump and against Elon, and then people go, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. There's no evidence. But
you believe what you want.
It's like both sides have conspiracy theories. Why am I so ignorant to disregard their conspiracy theory when my one was correct? Why isn't their one going to be correct? Maybe we're just all putting two and two together and can see it's all a lie.
I think what you articulated is the position with a lot of my audience is in as well, and it becomes what we're doing is this work, it's so complicated. There's so many vested interests vying to make us think certain things. Because we are, at least in Australia, we are like the nexus of power as democracy. You have to convince a proportion of the Aussies that don't give a shit about politics to care enough to give you that power.
Yeah.
Right? And you can say, oh, it's all rigged and all this things. But at the end of the day, we still have a very good electoral commission. We have a great electoral system. Don't anyone come at me with this system's rigged in Australia. Piss that off back to America. Our system's very good. It's independent. And they do have to come to us at least once every 3 years to get some sort of level of permission. And so I think, I forgot where I was going with that. What was the question initially for that?
That we're sort of, both sides seem to be a lie.
Yeah, and so it's so complicated that we end up wanting to feel like we know something. And that's the easiest thing we can go. We can go, well, they're all the same.
Yeah.
And in a way, what I'm kind of saying to some people is we lose as well. So you either lose if you believe they're BS, but we know enough to know, you're not fully honest with me. But then we can't tell who is telling the truth and who is not, because how could we? We have to, be an expert in every different specific field that people spend 40 years studying? We don't know. So it's all complicated, but we want to feel like we know. So we end up going, and this is the cynical Aussie punter sort of thing. This is where I got a lot of punters in this camp, and I'm trying to shift them away going, oh, they're all the same. They're actually not, but we still have to work out how to know who is good faith and who is bad faith.
Yeah.
And when we tap out, like many people do, politics is a waste of time. They're all the same. What's the point? It's all rigged. Corporate vested interests win. Because you tap out, you go to the election, you donkey vote it. You either vote for what they want because you believe they're BS, and that's totally fair because it's sophisticated BS, or you tap out and they do what they want anyway. So it's navigating that space is really hard, and avoiding the easy cop-out, which is it's all the same, it all doesn't matter, is a lose as well. Which my whole platform is trying to take people from, you shouldn't have to do this, unfortunately we do, let's take one little step into caring about just one issue, and here's some tools that we can use to go, all right, maybe I'll know a little bit more about this. And that's why I always talk about money in politics, corporate corruption, political corruption, all the things we can all agree on. And I just kind of pointing out common tools, like where are they getting their money from and how do they vote?
Where did that start for you?
Like when did I kind of discover this theory of...
because we've all had that awakening moment where we're going, oh, what? I've been lied?
Yeah.
I've been lied to? And so like some people just give up what you're asserting there. And then also some people go, well, I can make an impact. Maybe I can create some awareness around this. And I guess that's what you've done.
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple moments. I think I started listening to Freakonomics podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a great podcast. It's just economics. And you discover that countries do different things all over the world. And you can look at those and go, did it work, did it not? And they just bring you the data. They go, hey, did you know that, a universal basic income when studied in Canada, Finland, or whatever, actually people don't quit their jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, they're just saying what happened when they did the study. And I discovered that answers were actually easier than everyone thinks.
Yeah, okay.
Answers to complex problems, like should we have a universal basic income or what should we have a welfare system? Yeah. Like there are answers to this because you can look at other countries who don't, other countries that do, and people, smart nerds, study the outcomes going, okay, if you make this, I think it was a Freakonomics podcast, if you make a welfare system too punitive, meaning too many loopholes, too many rules, too many regulations. I mean, I've bloody been on Centrelink. Yeah. I'm telling you, that's a full-time job just getting that payment.
Yes.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
But that's what the studies show. If you have too many loopholes, too many requirements, people actually go back into work less.
Yeah.
You can accept that or not. That's what the study found. And so I learned, I'm like, there are solutions to these things we fight about all the time. Why don't we? Why are we still fighting over stuff? And the next moment was when I was teaching a year 10 economics class, and I opened the textbook, just winging it as teachers do. I don't have time to plan. And so I open the textbook and I see that there's this sustainability development goals ranking list. And the textbook's from 2017, and this measures clean air, clean water, access to water, women in the workforce. I mean, you name the metric that we want to measure, we've got it, right? We've got, our environment, obviously, how much deforestation's going on, GDP. You name the measurement, they've got it. And they were global rankings. And we'd had, 8 years or so of a Liberal government, which is a good enough time to go, hey, have we been getting better or worse? Like, let's just objectively measure this and let's use some measurements on global rankings. So I was like, all right, kids, this is 2017, it's 2020. Give me the last 5 years, rank our progress, pick 5 metrics, rank our progress on each one. They came back a week later and they just go, we went backwards on everything. Like every kid there, like at best we stayed level, and they're back, and the moment when they just go, sir, like, why? Why did we go backwards on all these things? And in my head, I was like, well, because clearly they're serving corporate interests, not us. But I'm like, oh, do I say this in school? So I went home, wrote a letter to the MP. I'm like, what do you want me to tell them? Here is what they've found. Your government has gone backwards on literally everything anyone would care about. What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
And then I got some generic response back. And that's where I was like, the solutions are actually more simple than we think. People agree on so much more than we disagree on.
Correct.
And we know what to do. So what the bloody hell is going on? So that's what pushed me up the tree to go, well, clearly our politicians are not working for us. And so we have to keep an eye on that. And what are the systems that keep them working for all these, we're in WA, we're in Perth, all those bloody mining cartels out there, all those that dominate your landscape, right? That's who they work for.
Where this was a common message, even through COVID, where we were, vocally opposed to the lockdowns and mandates and even the vaccinations to a certain point. And I think it got lost because we were still also opposing McGowan, for example, for being loyal to the resources industry. And people were like, well, you just don't like him because he's lockdowns and mandate. No. Like, we didn't like him before. And so... we can see it happening consistently, and then they end up in cushy jobs.
Oh, Marky McGowan, mate. I was reading yesterday because I'm making a YouTube video.
Yeah.
He's worked 4 lobbyist jobs.
Yeah.
You know how he left and he was like,
I need a rest.
4 lobby jobs. He took BHP and Minres, right?
Yeah.
Minres, like Chris Ellison, the ex-head or current head of, I don't know if you heard this. He, fact checks welcome, citations necessary.
Yeah.
He was just caught siphoning money to a different offshore account that stiffed shareholders and didn't pay taxes, and he just did a deal with the ATO. When was the last time the ATO said, oh, you haven't paid taxes? How about you pay 10% of it? 20%? We know it's tough. That's literally what he got, the sweetheart deal. Why? Because the ex-premier went to go work at his bloody company.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, it goes on. He gave Person of the Year to Gina Reinhart. Like, what a wank.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if that's not, it's so obvious, right? And there's stuff that isn't obvious as well.
Yeah.
But if this obvious stuff is out there, then this is why.
Well, the Northern Territory example, I think that you pointed out.
Nicole Madison.
Mate, that was insane. Maybe for the listeners who haven't heard that, maybe explain that, break that down. What sort of happened, if you can recall.
So I loosely recall.
Yes.
Instagram Reel has citations on it, so don't sue me, Nicole Madison. But as I believe it, INPEX is the big gas cartel up there. They get every drop of gas for free. They pay close to zero to taxes. They've been doing it for the last 10, 15 years or so. Yeah. Absolute leeches on society. And ultimately, they were just Nicole Madison, I think, was she the deputy or the premier? I don't know the exact. But she essentially went to go work for INPEX after she literally wrote the rules for INPEX.
How is that sort of stuff not a conflict of interest? I don't...
Once again... Corruption, you could call it that, but I'd get in trouble. You can't do that because it's perfectly bloody legal. Yeah. Right? And you're right. The fact that we can even have the appearance of conflict of interest, people divide over everything. Yeah. I can go out on the street. I don't care which political party you think you identify with. Is anyone okay with that? And the answer is no. Yeah. So solve that first.
And you just touched on it. Polarization, division. And this is why I'm conflicted about the podcast, because anytime I have an opinion, we've now built a platform where people listen, and I'll put out a clip, and sometimes tactically, honestly, you go like, okay, this is going to
getting for the clicks.
Yeah, 100%. And then you're like, fuck, I'm actually just contributing to further dividing the nation in whatever way. And last night was a perfect opportunity. I had a clip that I clipped up, ready to go, from yesterday's podcast with Alana Jukic, and was talking about the Olympics and whatnot. I asked about women's sport, very polarizing topic at the moment.
That one,
We put out a topic about our opinions on it, just like what I would do. I'm a father of a daughter, how I would tell her to, prove them wrong, use that as motivation. And even that was a polarizing thought. Yeah. Anyway, clipped up this clip of me and Alana talking about that, and she had the same opinion. She was like, well, look, I'd probably use it as motivation to prove that guy wrong. Like, that's that. And then I had it clipped up. I was like, cool. People are actually, this is a hot topic, I'm going to put it out. Yeah. And I went, no, because it's, even though our thoughts are genuine and what we honestly feel about the situation, some people are still going to go, he's a dickhead, he's a fuckhead. Like, they're just going to come out and create division, hate, side with one side or the other. And so I decided to put out a clip instead of her and another country's athlete coming together in solidarity, celebrating each other's victories. And I didn't think, I was like, well, look, this isn't going to align with anyone. This isn't going to be anyone's cup of tea, but fuck it. I want to put coming together. I want to put people spreading love and compassion out there more. And it went really well. Like, we've been not going very well since we had Renicon.
Really?
Very much like a cut in our Instagram reach has just like fallen off from like 1,000 to 2,000 likes to like 29, like that. So I don't know.
Is this political?
Maybe. I think Corey, actually, to be honest, our co-host, he's probably got a few more things that some people don't like. But yeah, anyway, it just went really well. And it was actually quite vindicating that a clip that was celebrating togetherness and finding solidarity and something, even though they were in competition, fighting against each other, they found this one thing to bring them together. And I'm like, fuck, I want more of that. I want to put more clips out there, how we can come together. But I can't turn a blind eye to something that I see happening with a platform. If I see, like you do, tax dodgers or whatever, and don't call it out, what am I not using my platform for good? I'm battling this, and I don't know what to do.
You're in like a crisis of what your platform does, what it stands
Correct.
for, what it pushes for.
Exactly.
And I think I've been there before. Like before I started Punters Politics, I had other sort of podcast projects, just similar to you, just talking about certain things. And the temptation is to look around and go, okay, well, what gets lots of mega traction? It's like the controversial stuff. It's what's going on. But then when I started Punters Politics, it was almost deliberately, and this is, I guess, mine's an example of a proof case of it working, of going, what is it that I am trying to focus on? What is it that I am trying to achieve and what I'm trying to do, and having that goal really clear. And it came as politics. We are deliberately fed beauty pageant politics that is about issues that do not matter to your everyday life. So take the women's sport example, an old mate, what's his face with his opinion?
Marty Sheargold, yep.
Yeah. And he's like, blah, 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 I'm a jock. This is what I'm paid to do. And then the corporate media just laps that up. They love it. It's on every inch. Oh, how dare he say that? Blah, blah, blah. How dare he? Blah, blah, blah. People are going to be idiots, right? Like that's what happens. But it feeds that beast. So then I go, well, how does Punters Politics fit in with this machine? And because I'm so anti, corporations control everything in so many different ways.
Yeah.
They control politicians by giving them money, but they also control them by making them afraid. This is Albo right now. He's afraid. He's afraid of Rupert Murdoch. You know why? Because they lost the last couple of elections because Rupert Murdoch's power is big. It's strong. He can put his thumb on the scales and put propaganda out there. And the problem is propaganda works. So my whole thing is I'm going to teach people the difference between a royalty and a tax. Because every time we say, that's our gas, give us money for it, the gas cartels go, oh, it's a tax. And people believe it. So I've kind of gone, okay, no, I'm going to make sure when that happens again, people understand I'm not an idiot. I know that a royalty is a payment for something I own and we own the gas. Whereas 10 years ago when Julia Gillard tried to put through a mining tax, Australian public didn't understand that and the Labor Party were rubbish at explaining it. And that's their problem, right? So I'm not Albo's enemy. If he ever wants to do a mining tax, I should be his best friend because I'm helping people understand certain things. So then I go, these issues, these women's in sport issues or trans sport or these sorts of things, I go, like, is it dividing people? Yes. How many people does it impact? Very small percentage, especially Australians, especially when we're importing it from America. So I just go, and that's not to say that this isn't real impacts. You know, you've got a daughter, you're grappling with how real that is go, I don't want these attitudes to my, so I can understand that. Correct. But then I just go, well, it's Punters Politics. Like, so this is how I just process whether I touch something or don't. I just go, well, practically it's not impacting me or anyone very on the day to day. What's like, is it impacting more than us giving our gas away for free and having no money in the budget because we're subsidizing fossil fuel industries and we can't afford proper medical system because our money's just going to offshore cartels. So I go, no. So this is what I focus on. And I think the goal of corporate media is to find things that divide us over the 5 to 10%, amplify it. And then when anyone has an opinion, we all just get to fight. Oh, I disagree with you. I disagree. And they don't like, it's good to have opinions and chats and talk about stuff where we learn. But I think for me, I just go, is the purpose dividing? Does it impact anyone? Does it impact the vast majority of my audience and Australians? And I just go, no. So I just kind of don't touch it. Because I look at it, honestly, like it's a landmine that Murdoch and corporate media and corporate billionaires have put on the ground and they just leave it there. And they go, you touch that, it will explode and everyone will be divided. So I see my whole role is I'm like literally walking through a minefield going, okay, don't touch that. Don't say those key words because everyone in their comments will lose their damn minds because propaganda works.
Conscious decisions to navigate that conversation in a neutral way. Hard on systems, soft on people.
Yeah, very much so. I don't I don't think people are idiots. Yeah, well, it's weird. I think people are idiots, but I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm the same as you. We're all idiots. Yeah, well, we're lovable idiots. We're doing our best. We can easily be fooled, but it's not your fault. I'm not like, if you believe something on Facebook that's like a really sophisticated deep fake or it fits with your prejudices and your biases, like I understand it. And I'm, like I'm saying, hard, like you said, hard on systems. It's these systems that are deliberately with sophisticated algorithms. Like, I don't know, if you think that picking up a supercomputer in your hand and programming it against what you like, what you pause on, what you look at, how long you spend on something, what you send to a friend, monitoring you full, you think they can't then work out how to change opinions in your mind? Good luck. Like, of course they can. In my head, they definitely can.
I'm definitely, I've stopped watching people that I watch, for example, because everyone, I've just gone, right, well, or I fell into a side where I started watching left and right. I wanted to see both sides. And we talked about it off air, but they were both commenting on the same exact thing with different perspectives. And I was
different
like,
edits too.
Yeah. And using it and both leaving out cherry-picking data or quotes or parts of the interview. And I don't even know what to believe anymore. And I don't want someone else's opinions to influence mine. I like Russell Brand, for example. I like how he commentates on the world. And then I'm like, well, just because I like his viewpoint on a lot of things doesn't mean I have to like all of it. And then I might listen. I started following the Washington Post when I was looking at all the American. So Washington Post, left of the left.
Well, is it though? Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, well, correct. So,
like billionaire cartel. And then once again, as you're trying to go, I want a diverse media diet, you discover that billionaire over here controlling media and billionaire over here controlling media. So has he fed us this left-right dichotomy that's actually a smokescreen for establishment, anti-establishment, everyday punter, few ruling oligarchs that actually write the rules.
And it's just a very challenging thing to navigate,
it's hard.
Especially as someone deep into it already in that platform that we've got. People are sending us messages, look into this, look into that. Even if I say we've got punters coming on, ask him about this, ask him about that. Why isn't he commented on this? And I'm like, he's got an expertise. This is what he focuses on.
The answer to any of those questions is why I don't comment on something. It's because I don't bloody know about it. And I have only so much attention and I focus on certain things. So the answer is probably it's potentially too divisive, and I've decided that communicating around it will do more dividing than good, or it doesn't impact as many people as I think is solving the fundamental broken structures within our political system. Or, my thing I'd say to a lot of that is we've been so individualized, we have to do everything ourselves. We have to do our own research. I'm actually not a do your own research kind of guy because one, research is a complex thing. I got a professor friend who's like, no, you don't do research. Show us your parameters of which papers you include and which you don't and how it can be replicated. Oh, you're not doing that. Oh, so you're not doing research, you're Googling.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And we just have to admit that. And when we do Googling, now algorithms are feeding us. Oh, we know that he's more likely to click on this type of information, so we're going to feed him that information. So we did our research. So it's such a complex way to do that. You can't do it yourself. That's what I think. I'm a big believer in having a diverse group of people who are smarter than you, people who have studied this for 20 years, and another person studied for 20 years, another person, and you watch them talk. And you go, okay, interesting. And then you have a different set of people. Because the other thing I've discovered is if you're really smart in one area, it probably follows you're an idiot in almost every other one. Because you took all your time to become really smart on this. But you've been around academics and stuff. They have no street smarts. They're pretty dumb about certain things. They'll ask the dumbest question, but you ask them about how long they spent studying whatever bloody microbe within
Yeah.
the quantum whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And you're lost.
Yeah.
So we just need to work together
Yeah.
to find a picture of reality. And I think we're being driven apart, individualized, atomized, and when it's substitute with an algorithm that someone else is controlling, that we can't see what's in there. And that keeps feeding into us.
And well, that's where I've fallen in. This is where I'm looking at is like, well, be the curious person and ask the experts questions. Get them on, ask them questions. We got, Dr. Stephen Bright we've had on a couple of times, for example. He's an expert in psychedelics and how it's been used in MDMA for healing PTSD. I don't know. I have a general knowledge of like what it's happening and the fault mode network, what I've learned off him, but he's the expert. But then if you try to have a general like conversation with him, like he's a very awkward man as well. So like when it comes to psychedelics, he knows every fucking thing about it. Like he's an incredible doctor. But then that's
You ask him about how to cook a souffle, he's got no bloody clue.
Like,
of course he doesn't.
I don't know. I'll show you how to make a good milkshake.
Yeah. And the challenge, I think, even with experts, like we're asking people to do too much that we shouldn't have to do, because even with experts, the whole scientific and expert field, the way it's kind of set up that I think maybe punters don't fully grasp is that he's one guy who's studied it, but the strength of the system, and this is why when you become super anti-system and I don't believe anything that comes out of any institution, institutions at their best, they can have problems as well, for sure, like nothing's perfect, but institutions at their best have a collection of experts that then talk to one another and go, well, you're wrong. Because if you're talking to this expert in psychedelics and he's talking about a paper, I wouldn't know and you wouldn't know, like, hang on, what parameters were in that paper? Should he have included this in his sample size? Was his sample size too small?
Yeah.
Or did he adjust for this variable that could have compromised the data and whatever? I don't know. But some other nerd who studied it would know. And if you're watching them talk and he says, hey, but what about this variable? You don't know what the variable is, but you can see them fight it out. And then you get to, so it's like, it's not just one expert, it's like a collection of experts.
Yeah.
In a system that has the right incentive structures, meaning, how do they make their money?
Yeah.
If they're getting their money from selling hawking products that, then they're incentivized to make sure that products look good, are they going to actually say that the product's crap?
Yeah.
So it's hard. Like it's very, very hard fast. And that's why I just like, you have to work together with other people.
Yeah.
And we have to hold opinions lightly. Because like you said, you give an opinion, divides everyone.
Yes.
So now you can't just kind of explore, especially when you're on a podcast, on a platform. So
Oh.
you ask me opinion on something, my default is like, I haven't looked into it, don't know.
Yeah. And it's also like we might do a 2.5 hour podcast and I might ask 38 questions and I clip up one bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck.
And then Punters Politics gets in there, it's like, oh, mate.
Yeah. but you'll also know, you'll be like, I know what I'm doing here. I'm using this little...
Yeah, it's pull. It's a pull.
Poll, it is.
And that's the algorithm shaping your behavior.
Correct.
To put something out there, which now you're feeling a bit dirty about, going like, I didn't want to deceive people in that. But you also have a job. You got a business. You're trying to like get the word out there. You're trying to compete in the marketplace of attention for something. And so what do? We go to the tactics. We put something into the world that we actually don't really like. We actually don't want to be clipping that. We don't want to be doing that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I'm so lucky with my platform.
And with that for specific, with what I guess it is like that 1 minute clip, we'd also call ourselves out within the 2 hours of that chat and go, what if we're wrong? But we don't put that in because it's not going to align with anything. And that's why I do like yours. Yours is also in satire, which is, it's almost like you try and make it comedy and a bit of fun by pointing out what we're having the wool pulled over our eyes for. So
because it is really hard to, and I think what I've done is I've just picked the easy stuff, but that also hasn't been poisoned. Because for a lot of issues, the well has been poisoned.
Yeah.
So you mention the words climate change,
Yeah.
vaccines.
Yeah.
Like there are legitimate conversations to be had and should be had around so many like trans athletes. Oh, you can clip that. Oh, crap, clicks.
Yeah.
We need to have conversations about these things. But as soon as you mention those words, you just everyone has their tribes, their idols, their preconceived ideas, and if you don't fully agree that every vaccine's like caused whatever, like, oh, you're a bloody whatever, or if you don't buy in to 100% of the dogma of that party, there is no. And so I guess when I look at those issues, I not only like assess, are they important, are they not, because that can weigh into it as well, but I go, can a conversation be had around this? Because my theory is how I operate is blokes like Rupert Murdoch, billionaires that control the media, if they can't change your mind, they want to poison the well. And so if they can't make you think that giving all your resources for free to them, offshore Exxon, Chevron, USA cartels, is a good idea, then they will make having a conversation about it so toxic that nothing can get through. And I think that's ultimately where our media landscape's landed. So what I'm really doing is looking for the easy path, going, well, sucked in Rupert Murdoch. He hasn't spoken about royalties and taxes very well. And put me on Sky News. Let's see Peter Credlin defend giving away sovereign resources for free. Go on. Yeah. Let's go. But what she'll try and do is go, yeah, but climate change, Colton, Greta Thunberg, and all these buzzwords that make people angry. That's what she'd try and do. Like one libertarian called me out on X, and I'd kind of ignore it mostly, but this one got me. It was late at night. I shouldn't have responded. But her framing around my platform and what I do, it was exactly out of Sky News Murdoch playbook. It was like, what he wants is for competitors to renewables to pay more tax. So she had to throw in renewables because now that's bloody renewables, we hate them. It's like, okay, you don't want your own energy source in your house? Weird for a libertarian. That's weird to me that you want someone else to control your energy.
That is interesting.
That's weird. So that's an interesting way. But, and then she just obviously twisted it to go, how about you just pay some bloody tax? I don't want to pay more tax. I pay more tax than you. But obviously she just twisted it to try and bring it onto her fighting ground. Yeah. And that's what they do. They try and play as jiu-jitsu so that we're fighting about renewables and climate change now. We're not talking about how these bludgers are getting shit for free.
And I often see it happen, and you see it within your own comments and your own responses. And you're like, how have I been?
They got you.
They've taken this in a different direction than the clip was even about. I don't understand. And so, but then how do we navigate it? How do we navigate a situation? Like, I don't know. Like, what's something that's big at the moment? Well, not big at the moment, but like you see in Syria, we see Christians being slaughtered over there. No media.
See, I haven't even watched it. I know nothing about that.
So people have been sending me this, and I'm like, wow, this is
that's bad.
A horrible thing that's happening in the world that there's no media coverage around for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Probably because it's a country that no one looks at. And
am I meant to comment on this? Am I meant to I don't know. Yeah. Am I meant to bring light to this fucking discussion? Because war is obviously my biggest. Yeah. That's probably the thing that really drives most of my quote unquote activism has over the last 20 years, as a bit of a hippie growing up almost, love, peace, no war, hating that sort of stuff. What am I meant to do? Am I meant to call out that stuff, or is there going to be an entire religion then go, wow, they shouldn't be in this region of this country? And I don't know enough about that sort of stuff as well. I don't know. I don't comment on Israel, Palestine because I don't know enough about it.
That's a complex topic.
It's fucking complex.
And that's all I'll say.
And that's exactly right. I look at things, and the one thing I really have liked, the one thing I've liked Trump saying in the whole last 2 or 3 years, and people can look into it any way they want, but when he said, I want people to stop dying, I don't care what he had to say behind that. That's exactly what I want. I don't care. Well, I do care how it's done, but there's a point we need to stop people dying, innocent people. Yeah. And what do I do? How do I navigate that conversation?
And I think you're in the space now because everyone's now telling you what you should be doing with you. Like, hey, you need to pay attention. You need to pay attention to that. And I've kind of learnt this by watching one of my mates who's a pretty high up travel influencer. Been doing it a while, and just watching how he. Because he's as trivial as it comes. It's travel. It's fun travel content. Yeah. That's what he does. Yeah. And all of the time he's getting DMs being like, oh, you don't talk about this. You don't use your platform for good. You don't do whatever. You don't do whatever. And just watching how he, potentially callously, some people would think, and they, people in his comments would say it, but he just goes, this is not what I do. He knows what he does. Yeah. He knows what his platform exists to do. He's like, I just do fun, light travel content. And I think Hamish and Andy, was it in a podcast, or I've heard them kind of talk about what it is that they do. They never talk politics, and you could judge them and be like, oh, they don't care about people dying in parts of the world. Yeah, but they just know what they do, and what they do is they provide a space for people for 1 hour a day,
the joy
to escape whatever the bloody hell's going on, and that's needed as well. Sometimes I crush podcasts like you wouldn't believe it. Triple time. I'm like, give me the info, give me the cliff notes, just so I can understand it. Yeah. And I need to go to Hamish and Andy for an hour, single speed, listen to them giggle about stuff that doesn't matter. Yeah. And that's a reset, and that's what they provide. And so it's you knowing what it is that you're doing and kind of having, when that's clear, then when people say, because obviously people say that to me as well, but I'm just like, nope, not my issues. Like, here is the set of Punters Politics. It's high-level politics.
Yeah.
It's systems, it's structures, and it's broad-scale agreement between people left and right. And so it just, the struggle you have just becomes clearer when you kind of, whereas you're in a tough space, you're just blokes having a chat, talking about different stuff.
Yeah.
And that kind of has its space as well,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's what Jogan really used to be.
Yeah.
Like, two blokes having a convo, and the media would always misconstrue him as like, to be honest, he should probably have a conversation about when you're a multi-millionaire and you can't afford a team. Like, if I was as big, I'd have a full team of people who disagreed as fact checkers all sitting there so I could be as balanced as I could.
Yeah.
Because when you have a certain audience, like, but he has no responsibility to do that.
Yeah.
And in his mind, he's like, he's just a bloke having a conversation. And there's a space for that as well.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, hearing people nut out ideas and have opinions is good for people.
And then the danger comes when they clip it up, because it could be a full circle conversation when you go, oh, no, I'm definitely wrong.
That's right. And people won't see you go, oh, I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
Because that stuff doesn't track. Because people had the minute, they commented the thing, they formed that opinion, and they're done. And people don't revisit opinions very easily. So I think the task, as I see it in your space, is like, Joe Rogan kind of built this for at least the people that listen to him. People understand he's just a bloke talking shit with friends in a room.
Yeah.
But then people looking in who don't fully take it that way, they go, they're thinking he's leading people astray. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. There's fair arguments against how big he is and what his role and responsibility ought to be, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's another conversation that can be had.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do you put out there that, because it's good practice for people to just listen to people with opinions, but that's a really tough concept for people to get their head around when we're so used to hearing. We just want to engage with something with it. Maybe that's what algorithms have shaped our discourse to be. Agree, disagree, like, don't like, comment if I don't like, angry if I don't like, rather than going, disagree, but interesting take.
Yeah.
People, we don't do that.
Yeah.
And could algorithms train us to do that? They definitely bloody could, but they won't.
Feels by design, that, though.
Definitely. It's all just keep them on platform when we don't care how we do it. And the easiest way to do it is make them outraged, make them angry, make them feel things, make them whatever. Like, I see the people I disagree with the most all the time popping up in my feeds, because that's the thing I read, I pause, I comment on, and it keeps. And so, like, it's almost a new skill you need to learn to be like, oh, it's showing me that because it wants me to do that. I have to consciously try and train this algorithm, which is why this whole conversation around free speech kind of irks me a little bit.
Yeah.
Is because the conversation around free speech is an individualized conversation about what you said and what you said. And you can't say that. You can't say that. That's hate speech. That's this. Whereas, once again, I just zoom right back up and I go up the tree and I go, whilst we're arguing whether Uncle Daryl can be racist on Facebook, right? Algorithms are training everybody to engage in content. Twitter, X is a cesspool right now, at least my feed, so I don't read it.
Yeah.
But the incentive structure is to be snarky, sharp, and an asshole as in as short possible as you can to somebody else to get likes. It's this small text gladiatorial arena. And I'm like, the incentives on that, I don't want to be a part of, because it shapes then how I engage. How can I just give a comeback? Rather than, how can I give a thoughtful, long considered, where I give due weight to his arguments and then express myself in a clear and concise manner?
Yeah.
No incentive for that.
Yeah.
And no one is talking about how these algorithms are shaping our discourse, how we engage with people, the things we see, the people, what we talk about, because algorithms and bots are shaping our discourse. And that's when what I do is I'm looking at discourse. Whilst we talk about old mate bloody opinion on women's sport, we are not talking about those bludgers in those towers taking our stuff.
Yeah.
So and they want that. So it's like, while we're not talking about algorithms and how they're not transparent, we can't see what's going on with them, right? They just want us arguing, hey, you shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Hey, you should be cancelled.
Yeah. And I've noticed that with you. Like, you've had some incredible clips where, especially at the start, everyone's applauding.
Yeah.
And then they might see you align with one party or one position that someone's taken, and then suddenly you're the enemy, even though the 90% of what you've put out is they've been like, oh, finally someone's saying it. So it is interesting to watch someone else in that sort of space unfold and how they navigate it. I do like what you're saying, what you've been doing and saying, and I really felt like some of the politicians we we've had on lately. We had Malcolm Roberts on, we had Senator Rennick, Libertarians, we had Greens. We've had a lot of different parties on, different opinions.
Like a WA Greenie?
Yeah, we had Simone Springer, who's actually a local comedian, who's just disillusioned with what she sees, and she's always been a member of the Greens and just wanted to make an impact. But then again, once you're associated with the Greens, you put in this box of like, nah, you're a Greenie, fuck. So I had to defend her, even though I don't align with the Greens. I still had to defend her on our chats and go, look, hey, this is someone who just sees the same injustices that you see, and she just aligns with this particular party. Doesn't make her a fucking bad person.
And thinks that this solution, and the thing about this polarization is after I listened to your pod with Rennick, and he hit me up in the emails about this gas stuff, and we ended up chatting on the phone.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing he knows is tax.
Yeah.
Right? He was an ex-tax whatever for some of these big firms and stuff. So he knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, you listen to Rennick for like 30 minutes talking about tax. You listen to Adam Bant for 30 minutes talking about tax. Mm-hmm. They agree.
Yeah.
They agree. They both want cartels, these big corporations, to be paying tax. They don't want them shipping off. They all know the loopholes. Rennick spelling out the loopholes.
We spoke about the offshore loopholes on our podcast. Yeah.
He's describing how they work. And the Greens are saying, we also want to collect taxes from these bludgers. And the crazy thing is they'd rather us fight over, let's say, climate change is the thing they disagree with.
Yeah.
Right? They're never going to agree on that. But this is a massive policy that they both agree on. And if we had a parliament that worked for us, they would get together. And I've only had I haven't spoken to Adam Bant, but I had Max Chandler Mather just on the podcast. We're going through politicians as well.
Yeah.
And just from and this maybe I'm wrong, prove me wrong, I'm happy to be wrong, but my chat with Rennick and my chat with Max, I could sit them down both in front of me and say, hey, how about if it was just down to them, would you pass this tax bill right now? I think they would.
Yeah.
I think they both would go, all right, you don't think climate change is a threat, you think it is, but tax policy, done, signed.
Yeah.
And they want us fighting over that thing that's been poisoned and whatever, rather than just solving like this big problem. And I think that's the problem, because I think, whether it's right or not, I just think we all agree on 70 to 80% of stuff.
And if you think that's by design, do you think that goes all the way to the top? Plant these seeds. I mean, the investors, your BlackRocks, your Vanguards, the investment groups that actually own all of these from the top. Are they the ones, like from a conspiracy side of things, are they the ones planting these specifically divisive ideas just in it? They're not dumb. I think they're geniuses. They know exactly what they're doing. Because it's like this. I don't even know. It's like a very complex attack on our I don't know, our freedom of choice almost.
Yeah.
Because you are being
our societal infrastructure.
Yeah, you're being told what to think. And you,
kind of, yeah. But not directly.
No, correct.
And successfully.
It's very indirect. It's very complex.
Yeah.
And what do they call? We've seen examples of sort of like psyops, and again, these are buzzwords, and I don't like to fall into them, but like that mass formation psychosis, that word went around for quite a while through COVID.
Yeah.
People just not believing what they're seeing in front of their eyes. This stuff, you can't even see it. You've just sort of been thrown in all these different directions.
Well, that's our whole social structure, right? Like, you can't see the things that shape our discourse and our society and our attitudes and cultures. And you know, this might not resonate with your audience, but I'm not a conspiracy guy.
Yeah.
At all.
We love it.
Yeah. I mean, the UFO gave me a hint, but
I like a good UFO. Yeah.
And so, but I think where I go with, I just personally don't think I need to go to that level, because it's like,
well, you know your avenue.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, like, whether you think it's a coordinated few people at the top that are deliberately manipulating everything, I just think in probabilities. I think it's highly unlikely. What I witness is an alignment of incentives that push individuals to do similar sinister things. Right? You can look at Nike, you can look at Exxon, you can look at cigarette companies, you can look at gambling companies. They're all doing the same thing. Because the playbook is to confuse the discourse, push out bad research about gambling or cigarettes or fossil fuels or whatever it is, and confuse everybody so that we don't ban gambling ads, so that we don't ban, like, pushing literal cancer-causing chemicals from the Intex plant
Yeah.
that floats into Darwin City. And guess what? They don't even measure it, right? So once again, they're not deliberately going, well, I don't think, oh, we're going to poison all these people in Darwin. But they go, you know what's cheap? Just dumping this shit into the air. How about we just do it, don't measure it? Great, we save money. Awesome. Right? Someone dies. Oh no, they're suing us for whatever. Get the lawyers. Let's muddy the waters. Get a researcher. Put out some stuff that'll make it harder. Make so we can win this case.
Yeah.
A series of incentives that ultimately align to the same goal and purpose, which is to confuse us, change our minds on certain things, and it does feel as if it's orchestrated. But I think it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was George Carlin who said that. He was like, you don't need a conspiracy when everyone's got the same motivating factors.
I was thinking of that quote, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of exactly how it's said.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and if you guys have fun with it, like it's fine. Like
Yeah.
my mate freaking loves aliens. We're talking
Yeah.
all the time. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, really?
Well,
I
the
don't
aliens
know,
is
like-
fun, I think.
Aliens is still a fun one.
That's a fun one, yeah.
Hasn't been ruined yet.
Well, and I like the alien stuff. I love the ghost stuff. Sometimes
Yeah.
like that was just fun. It's probably our biggest 6 or 7 months where we just went, fuck it, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna read ghost stories. We're gonna
yeah.
and it was less divisive.
So maybe this is
Maybe
this
that's
is
all
you
it is. Just
discovering.
have fun, look
Just
into
have
the
fun with it.
spiritual realm. Like I've been listeners know I've been on a journey over the last couple of years, and probably really started with psychedelics, and then that's opened me up to a whole range of ideas. God, like 5 years ago, never would. If I had said I have some sort of feeling about God 5 years ago, I would have gone, you're a fucking idiot, man. Like, I now have this undying faith in God, whether or not that's Christianity or any other religion. It doesn't matter. That's not anyone's business. But I believe that there's something. And if you had told me fucking 5 years ago that was the case. And so I guess the thing that I am an expert in is myself and my own journey into spirituality, into conspiracies and fun. And I love learning and I'm curious about that. So maybe that is the path.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the pathway.
And maybe I think the way to teach people anything or explore anything or be able to look at your own flaws and problems is the indirect path. You can't, if you're married, girlfriend, whatever, you ever said, hey, I think you should do this. That doesn't work.
No.
That doesn't work at all. I'm
I'll
like,
do
hey,
the opposite. In fact. Yeah.
it's like, even if you're right, even if it's valid because you've got the external perspective,
Yeah.
as soon as someone says that to you, you're like, no.
Yeah. Someone tells me to watch a Netflix series and I fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah,
I'll do it my own, mate.
Yeah. Everyone's watching it. I will
Yeah.
not watch it now.
Ever
Yeah.
been to the gym with your girlfriend? Don't do it. Hey, I just think you should put your knees on the... No, walk away, bro. Walk away. So the indirect way is things like, you model the curiosity, the open-mindedness, the willingness to be wrong. Like this is part of what I'm trying to do because I need to be held accountable as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an expert in this stuff. To be quite frank, I don't want to be in the space I'm in. I don't want to be... When people say, oh, I follow your stuff and I listen to all your opinions. Don't.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy who's trying to do his best to piece together certain things. And if I can equip people so people go, oh, who are you voting for? Who are you voting for? I'm not going to tell you who I vote for because you need to come up with that yourself.
Yeah.
Because we have different interests. We're in different cities. We have different whatever. All I want you to do is to make sure that whoever you vote for is actually going to do what they've said for you. Because that's like my biggest problem with a lot of politicians. They say really great stuff.
Yeah.
It sounds really good. And then you look at their voting record and they sold you the hell out. So all I say to punters, and this is me trying to go, just look at how they vote. Look at these things. So when I make my content, I put my news articles that I'm reading up there. So if you disagree, it's fine. You're wrong. Tell me why.
Yeah.
Put citations. That's why I say fact checks welcome, citations necessary.
Yeah.
Put them in the comments because... the study I used, if you said, oi, by the way, that was done last year, here's an updated study on that thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because there's so much information, I need that. But if you're just like, oh, you're wrong because you said that one word and you're clearly in this camp, it's not helpful. So I guess the indirect way I'm trying to say is like, let's have political discourse
Yeah.
that isn't about the shit that doesn't matter, the beauty pageant politics. Let's have discourse that says, hey, I think you're wrong. Like we've been back and forth and I'm like, hey, have you listened to this? Like, what do you listen to this and think
I've been
about
listening
that
as well,
right?
and it's good to hear.
And then if you're like, well, actually, like I heard this, and then I'm like, oh, okay. And then it just creates a better space so that we can have hard conversations.
Yes, and then it's also self-reflection. You have considering that you could be wrong. I think is very healthy, and that's probably the
Probably the number one thing we need.
It's a trait of anyone that you listen to. If they can actually reflect on whether or not they are correct, I think it's probably a very good.
We all think we can do it, though.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the biggest problem. This is why I keep coming back to. I'm an idiot. I can be fooled. Someone charismatic with more information about something than you can make me believe in anything.
Yeah.
Right? And as long as I can keep that in my mind when I pick up this thing and I see something that, that fits my pre-existing biases and ideas, I bloody knew it. Then it comes out that meme was made up and it didn't actually happen and all those things. And if I can always remember that when I read anything, I can go, well, I should verify that because it feels good to believe it straight away. I should just make sure that there's not a made up something.
Correct, yeah, affirming your beliefs. And I mean, there was something that happened recently where we all sort of came together, like I guess people who were commenting on things socially, like yourself, us, people like Chris Primod, and we're all of different opinions, but we all came across the misinformation bill. We all said, nah, this can't happen. The way we can fight this is reach out to your independents, your crossbenchers, say that we do not want this and we should be able to at least get this done and put away with. And it worked.
Yeah.
And I thought, fuck, like us, you guys over in the eastern states, we've made a difference. We've actually made an impact here. And then I think 2 days later, they brought through, I think it was the 16-year-old social media ban.
Then that passed,
and then the hate speech ban, and it goes through like that. And I think the 31 bills they passed in one night.
Yeah, the guillotine or whatever it's called.
And I was like, I thought we were having an impact. I thought that, yes, there's a space for it.
Yeah.
And we didn't. And then
but any step is a good step.
Correct.
Right? And I think that's the perfect example where while everyone's focusing, because you could throw things at each other and I could just be like, of course you don't want the misinformation bill because you want hate speech because you want to be able to say racist things on X. I've got free speech on X now because Elon Musk is letting me say whatever I want, right? And then you could have come back at me and been like, you just want to shut down anyone that has a different opinion about you and you want to control the discourse, and instantly look at what's going on.
Yeah, you're not
Whereas instead, there's different reasons for for me, I just look at what like Human Rights Watch and different like Human Rights Law Center and Edward Snowden, not Evan Snowden, other guy, Aussie
Julian
Assange's lawyer, because she's been in that space. So I'm like, look what her opinion. I'm like, interesting. So I'm looking to these things and look at that. For slightly different perspectives, we go, actually, this would be a step backwards. And then it, at least on that one little bill, it put it off for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, the perfect example of like what I'm trying to do is like, we can disagree on whatever we want, but do we agree on this? Work together on that. Policy, just focus on the policy.
And it helps other people. And again, I shouldn't just blindly believe what you've said, but I would comment on the podcast saying, Punters Politics has talked about this and this is fucking concerning. And example, the funding for the fundraising for your parties. Yeah. And I was fucking shocked by it. And it's been put through.
Mate. They're teamed up. Through.
You can't beat that now. And so we can also...
We'll see. Like a hung parliament could deliver power to the crossbench where these crossbenchers say, you want to work with us? Repeal that. And it's possible that the government, if they want to form government, will say, all right, we'll repeal it. Because, that could happen. It might, I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. So when people go, doesn't matter who you vote for, the two majors get in anyway and do whatever they want.
Yeah, but that's a silly way.
The bigger
of
crossbench
thinking,
you have, they can do it less and less. Right? They could before because they can team up without having to negotiate. Right? So you have to just
Well, I think the last election was won on about 30%.
Yeah,
which
lowest primary vote in history.
So that means the independents, the crossbenchers, the minor parties are taking up. I think it's about 30 and just under 30%. So that's about 40, 41%.
Yeah.
Which is very good.
Yeah.
But if that's not the case in the future, like what we see here in WA, I think we've got 5 more seats less.
Which is big for you guys. For WA, for whatever is going on in the water of this once, your water tastes like shit.
Try sharing it and you get fucking psoriasis and shit. Yeah.
It is. I don't know what's in it, but every time I drink this water, I'm like, I'm not a fan.
No.
But yeah, like the fact that, once again, you can be a party politician, die hard, whatever. But if there's no competition, then they don't. Look at Albo right now. Look at him right now. He's like, a few polling where Dutton might be ahead or whatever, right? And he's now, we'll fund Medicare. You want us to fund Medicare? You want to cancel 20% of student debt? I'm like, yeah, I've got a lot of student debt. I would personally love you to cancel my student debt for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to cancel? I'll do it. Oh, vote for me and then I'll do it. Not realizing, mate, Dutton just agreed to your 7 bill Medicare funding. You just proposed it. Oh, mate, we got a few weeks left. Problem solved, mate.
Yeah.
Pass it right now. But you see how quickly they come to the party and give you what we need, where they go, everyone shouldn't be paying for the doctor in a country like this. And we're used to not paying for it. What are we, America? No. And how quickly they'll come together if they're worried. Whereas this is why the thing in WA, it's like, they're not worried. Why do you think all these lobbyists can just waltz in and hand jobs to whoever and literally have on-tap access to your premier? Because they're not afraid of losing power.
No.
And, maybe the Liberal Party's just too rubbish and offering not a good alternative, so you've got no competition. But in this last election, I don't know what happened with that race with the independent at time of recording right now. Freo independent might have underseeded.
Yeah.
It was close last I looked. I'm not sure who came out on top of that.
I haven't seen actually recently, to be fair, but it was very close.
It was very close.
And I was like, an independent. How good.
And close is good because if you're in Freo, all of a sudden your member's like, hey, what do you want? Hey, what do you? Yeah. Hey, I'll get that sorted for you. Don't you worry, right? Whereas in these other seats where everyone just votes the same way for the rest of their life, mate, they're not listening to you.
Yeah, I think Cottesloe was very close as well.
Was it?
Very close to Freo. But it was very good to see. But is that going to be the case in the next election? Like we got the federal election. This one, it's not coming into play from memory. But the 2028-ish.
The next election is when it's going to be even harder for independents to run against, because essentially, at least as I understand the bill, it just rigs it towards party machines.
Yeah, well,
especially establishment party machines.
Yeah.
And the whole point, and I think they've done it deliberately, because the independents are really hard to slam. And you've seen Murdoch try and do it by like the Teals, and they're trying to group them all together as this one, like Pocock's in there, and is Jackie Lambie one? Like, let's just get them all together and be like, it's all you guys. But Jackie Lambie's very different to David Pocock. Once again, they probably vote together on a few different things, and they don't. Even the Teal independents, who are from rich, wealthy, previously Liberal seats in Sydney and Melbourne, right? Like, they would disagree with like me on a lot of stuff. They're in wealthy. They're protecting their superannuation top end sort of tax thing, and I'm like, boy, if you got over 5 mil, geez, you're set for life. This is not an inheritance machine. It's meant to be for retirement or whatever. But they would disagree with me on that. But of course they would. Their electorate has that money, so of course they would. But we'd agree on certain things, right? So but they're trying to lump them all together and make you afraid of independent representation. So they're trying to force them together into a party, so it's easier to attack. It's really hard to attack like individually Pocock, because you have to be like, because everyone who votes for Pocock in Canberra, they're like, no, the bloke's like, we know what he's for. He's not from one of these suburbs. He'd probably vote against that bill. But they're trying to make it easier to fight this new threat, which threatens the current dominant duopoly.
Yeah. Well, so coming back to you then on that, because you're exposing a lot of this stuff, does it at all ever feel dangerous?
No, weirdly.
No?
Maybe it should, but
I mean, like, even when I was just briefly touching on some of the things I was touching on, I had someone just reach out and say, hey, stop mentioning you have a daughter, for example.
Interesting.
Just be, like, cautious.
Yeah.
And that scared me. I went, fuck, got a daughter, those sorts of things. And then I look at someone like you who's really fucking having an impact, proper calling out specific people,
probably the world's most dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
These billboards around now, I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah, so with these billboards, is there legal things that you've had to check, make sure you're not giving across certain information, that you have to fact check everything very thoroughly, I guess?
I fully tried to. And the thing that I think helps me a little bit is that I'm actually not doing journalism. Journalism is the people I quote. Michael West, independent journalist, The Guardian does some good stuff, about this gas cartel. The ABC has and so I just go, hey, this article quoted these numbers.
Yeah.
I didn't. So if they come after me for saying it, I'm like, well, it was in the paper, so you should probably, they're the ones that are putting it out there. I just, can I not read the paper sort of thing? That still won't stop them, which it hasn't yet. It won't stop them from what they do is with all this money, right? Once you have a certain critical mass of money, which are these cartels, they can just tie you up in court. They go, oh, well, you can fight us in court, and they can bleed me dry and bankrupt me completely. Like that's the tactic. They just take up the court system, which is why once again it's the biggest scam ever.
The process is
Because
the punishment, isn't
who
it?
pays for the bloody courts?
Yeah, the taxpayer.
We bloody do. And who uses it the most to defend their BS wealth? They do. Who's taking up all... You know how expensive judges are?
Yeah.
That's right. They're taking up our whole Supreme Court. All these... Our legal system defends their system and they don't even bloody pay for it, right? Like, so that's the biggest scam. So they could tie me up with legal threats and things like that. I would hope I know enough people right now that could help me out of that situation.
You've got some very good people sharing your posts as well.
Yeah.
And so that does...
So my profile, I feel like, is my defense. I'm like, you come after me.
Yes.
I got about 1 million Aussies who will... It will look bad on you.
Yeah.
I can't fight back with money. I can't. Well, I could probably crowdfund some stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't fight back with much else. But I've got a PR machine at my disposal. So if you want to if you want to go toe to toe with my brand,
I'll bring an army.
All I can do is bring you into the mud.
Yeah.
That's it. And to be honest, with brands like this, they would be wary of that. That's the thing that I think keeps them at bay. Going, I would go public with it, and it would be a very public, dirty fight. And I know a few journalists, and I know a few people in the media, and I know a few politicians. It would end badly for me, obviously. There's no winner in this scenario.
Yeah.
But I'll do whatever damage I could to their brand globally as I possibly could.
And I guess, what's the end game then? Like, how do you make impact? How do you enforce change your policy or tax? Is it through awareness? Because then the people create the... Well, do they? I don't know. Like, would they march in the street for this sort of shit? If there's enough public outrage about something potentially, but then the media is the one that creates the public outrage.
In a way, yeah.
And if the media is the one that's owned and bought by the people that you're outraged against, then it's not going to see the light of day. So
it's like a critical mass, as I see it. Like, I have a media machine that is Instagram and can get attention. And then eventually they can't ignore it as much. It's going to be curious to see if the corporate media pick up all these billboards everywhere, raise $85,000 from regular Aussie punties that are sick of giving away their gas for free.
Yeah.
Right? That seems like a bit of an issue. They could still ignore it. It'd be smart for their shareholders for them to ignore it. But it builds up this critical mass of, I'm just trying to do what I can to help Aussie punters demystify what is deliberately made confusing, which is Aussie politics. They deliberately make it so that they can't engage. Like, my audience is blokes like you. I'm walking down just, the mall here in Perth, and everyone, 9 times out of 10, it's an Aussie bloke who's a trader. I was just at the airport, this like Aussie bloke missing a few teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, hey, punter, yeah. Like, this is my audience where, like, people, when they sometimes talk about politics, they're condescending and they're jerks, and they're like, "Oh, you're an idiot if you don't understand this."
Yeah.
This is not you're not an idiot for not wanting to pay attention to the absolute shit show that's going on. But I'm going to do what I can to explain certain things so that when the propaganda machine comes to lie to you, I've given you a few little tools that you can just quickly and easily, because you don't have time for this, you can quickly go, "Oh, well, he said check this website. Oh, he's lying. Okay, the end. I'm not going to believe that." Right? And so the goal is to build permission structures so no one hates me more than Labor Rusties. Because whoever's in government is who I'm criticizing, because you're in government. Our role, as I see it, is to hold, he said he'd do this, bloody do it. You don't do it, you're a liar. Because they respond to us, punters, saying here's what we want, and when they say, oh, everyone wants it, they're going to do it. That's how democracy works. And so Labor Rusties hate it because I'm criticizing their boy, Anthony Albanese, and they're stoked he's got power, and they're afraid that criticism is going to take power away from him. But in my head, I'm Albo's best bloody friend. He doesn't think so. I met him one time. His eyes didn't really say I was a fan of this bloke. But I'm his best bloody friend. Like I said before, when Julia Gillard tried to pass a mining tax, she couldn't do it because everyone believed that a royalty was a tax. If Albo goes to do it now, I'm on your bloody team, mate. If you ever wanted to take it to the mat with mining cartels or gambling companies, I'm in your corner ready to explain things so that the propaganda machine that Murdoch, like I'm a tiny piece pushing against this corporate propaganda machine. And if I can just help Aussie punters kind of decipher some of the BS, then that makes the politician's job easier when they stand up with a bloody good policy and these vested interest groups are going to do all they can, because that's what Albo's afraid of. He's afraid of the propaganda machine that will come against him and has come against him and has cost him governments. So his logic makes sense. Don't rock the boat. We'll get into power. We'll do a few good things. We'll change the tax cuts so they're not only going to the top 1%. We'll do a few good things. But if I rock it too much, we'll get kicked out of power. That's all he's afraid of doing. And so I'm just there to push him in the back and go, come on, mate, do more.
Yeah.
Do more. And I'm trying to bring as many people as we can so that we can.
Yeah.
So that's how I see kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah. And then the voting side of things was I fell into the trap of, doesn't matter who I vote for.
Totally fair.
I think the last one, I didn't even donkey vote. I just didn't go. Paid the fine.
Oh, you paid the fine?
Yeah.
I was not on the register for so long. Because I didn't wake up till like 28 or something. So I can't blame anyone for not paying attention to this stuff. It's just when you get old enough and you go, hang on, the system is rigged.
Yeah.
It is rigged in a serious way.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like I was saying, Gen Z, they're not paying attention to me. Well, Gen Z maybe a little bit now, but younger than that, 19, 20-year-olds, that's Gen Z probably.
Yeah.
They haven't worked out. They're getting jobs. Come back in 3 years when you work out that you'd like to get ahead in life and you'd like to buy a house, you'd like a wage increase, you like these things and it's not working.
Yeah.
And you feel like it should be working. Well, that's when you realize the system is a bit rigged.
And from memory, was it Norway? They were threatened by the mining and the gas companies.
Yeah, they said we'll leave.
We'll leave.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And
No.
they were like, we're not throwing away billions of profits because you're going to tax us a little more. So we're still going to take our billions of profits.
Yeah. Can you imagine just going up to anyone? Like, this is why the argument's so dumb. Oh, if you tax them, we'll leave.
Yeah.
One, and this is what I said in the Instagram reel, what other stable democracy with every mineral under the sun with good court system that's going to defend you? Where are you going to go? Like, call their bluff, mate.
Yeah.
And so...
Norway is that perfect example. And then now that's... I think they've obviously directed that money back to the people and...
and the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Exactly.
And
But then again, there's other things like we see is something like the expenditure and what we're... waste. Like a similar... And obviously, I'm not talking about Doge and what Elon and Trump are doing, but is something like that, is it possible in Australia? Because are we going to put in place, I think that someone said they were going to try and put Jackie Lambie in charge of that. And I'm like, well.
Wasn't it P. Dutz with Jacinta Price?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
and then it comes out that Jacinta Price has been 15 times been kind of investigated for wasteful expenditure as an MP or whatever.
Exactly.
And this is the thing, that's a signal. And so this is, they take something true. Yeah, governments waste money.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big bureaucratic machine. If any job you're in, there's some guy that doesn't deserve his paycheck, but then there's 4 others who are bloody brilliant and worth every penny. And so they take something true, and this has been the dance of politics forever, and this is kind of what corporations want to do. They take something real, okay, governments waste money, that's true, and then they go, and then that becomes an excuse to defund those government services. Then the government services get shit, and everyone's like, what the hell? I'm on Centrelink for whatever, like it's taking forever, whatever. Oh, like this service sucks. And then they come along again and you say, you're right, governments can't do it. And like, yeah, you're right, let's privatize it. So they privatize it. And what is a government service that's privatized? It's a government-sanctioned monopoly. And now we're at the end of that cycle where we've privatised railways, we've privatised public transit in certain, like Skybus in Melbourne is one example. We've privatised, various different government infrastructures. Consultancy is one of them. So we talk about the Canberra bureaucracy. I just did a YouTube video on it. And then it comes out that ScoMo spent $21 billion on external consultants. Because you know what's more expensive than a government bureaucrat? A privatised PwC bloke in a suit who does a worse job, tells the government what they want to hear so they can pass whatever they want, and it's double the cost. So the crazy thing for people to get their head around, and they won't like me saying it, is that there are certain things that the government does which is 10 times more efficient. And the best example, there's a bloke called Cam Murray who I chat with every now and then. He's an economist, and he attacks superannuation quite a lot. And the numbers he gives around, I'll have to find what they exactly are, but the pension versus government versus superannuation, the pension employs half the people and delivers double the benefits. And super costs us twice as much because we're paying fees upon CEO bonuses, upon whatever. Costs us twice as much to deliver half the benefits. So when you're talking about a system that takes money and puts money back out into the... That's just one example where... So I would say, government waste is a thing.
And that,
But so is waste in corporations, and so is, like, mate, when a CEO is getting paid $15 million a year, what is that but not waste?
Correct.
Is that bloke seriously worth 3,000 times more than the low employee? Like, sure, like 2 times more, 5 times more, maybe even 10 times more.
Yeah.
But when we get into some of these salaries, that's when you know the system is so broken.
Yeah.
And you go, so you'd rather pay this one guy this much when I know a bloke who's still a CEO and a very successful guy and very good at what he does, he'd do it for half that. I've just saved you $7 million off you go. So I would just say when it comes to government waste, totally there. Corporate waste is the same thing. Similar, big infrastructure can have waste everywhere. Be specific. What are you talking about? And do you understand the system enough that you're pulling apart? Because if you just start slashing, because what it becomes an excuse, because and I'm probably about to do an Instagram reel on this. The things that they call government waste, just keep an eye on what Dutton pulls out, right? And I think the real examples I'm going to use, he's talking about 500 million for welcome to country ceremonies, right? I think it was 500 million.
Yeah.
Right? Is he going to mention $14 billion in fossil fuel subsidies? Is he going to mention the 20 billion Scott Morrison spent on private consultancy? 20 billion. We're talking like on a graph, like billions feels exponential. So on a graph, we're talking about something you can't see with a line like quite big.
So he'll grab an emotional point.
Just a culture war thing that, hey, you could argue that 500 mil more might be a waste of money. But if you're sitting next to, $14 billion a year, right? If you're talking about 1 in 3 corporations not paying income tax, government waste isn't just about spending. It's about what you're not getting from taxes. And if you've chosen to go slack on corporations, when the ATO has flagged one corporation as a risk for offshoring money, I've seen it like in the news article, the document's been like, forget the company, but it was flagged being like, we know that they're a tax minimization risk or whatever. Maybe it was Chris Ellison with Minrez. We know that that's what they do. We know that they're transfer pricing, which is technically illegal. We know they're doing it. So be aware, and they don't touch it. So government waste is a lot of things. Just make sure they're pointing at the right things, and they're not pointing at things that make everyone angry and make you hate the government, because guess what? Your teachers, government employees, and you know them, and they're great people. Nurses, boy, we love those, don't we? When you go to a hospital and you get a good nurse, you get a good doctor, you got a good hospital. A lot of the money expenditure is actually on things. The other side of saving money in the government is that when you give the government money, you want it to spend it back on you.
Yeah.
And you want it to spend it back on you with good government services. So when, let's say, P. Dutz comes in and says, we're going to cut this, what's he going to cut? Because if he cuts that hospital wait time, so I have to wait for 12, 15 hours to have a broken finger or something, I don't want you to do that. I bloody gave you the money, government, so spend it back on me on shit I need.
Yeah.
Right? Don't. So be specific about it. There's definitely waste, and always be open to it. And if you can prove it, cut it.
Such a good point, man. And then and this is, and maybe this is where we can finish up on, because for putting out sort of facts like that, people, if they don't agree with what you're saying,
Dismiss it all.
Dismiss the whole conversation. They'll dismiss every little bit you've said there if they don't agree with one part or the person you're talking about. They might hate Albanese so much they're like, you can't say anything bad about Dutton, so I'm not listening to anything right now.
True.
And I think that's the issue that I'm finding with myself and our commentary.
Yeah.
I'm finding with everyone. You've aligned with a side. You've become tribalist.
Tribal.
Yeah, the tribalism is strong. And how do we break that down? And I guess it is having long format open dialogue is really good. I think that's a good one, but the clips are not helping. The TikToks are not helping.
You gotta grow the podcast somehow.
I've got to do it somehow, but
I can't blame you.
But
also those people, the way I look at it is like, I'm not talking to you. That's it. You're not my audience. That's fine. And I think the thing that I'd maybe learn is like, especially starting YouTube, you put something out there, they push it to an audience that wants to keep that one thing.
Yeah.
And that's the danger of audience capture. You keep giving them what they want, and that can lead you down a rabbit hole where you end up a bit distorted, where you only listen to certain opinions because that's what they kind of want to see. And so knowing who you're talking to and who you kind of want, whereas like me knowing who my audience is, if you hear one thing I say and go, well, he's a shill for whatever because I disagree with this and whatever, like I'm not talking to you. That's fine. My audience is people that don't listen to politics but know it's important and want to now do a little bit. I'm talking to them, and we're going to have an open dialogue conversation. If I'm wrong, give me your citations. Show me whether even the news article I was using was wrong.
Yeah.
Tell me that. That's what I really need to be open with. And I trust my audience and my Patreons. They're the guys that hold me accountable and going, hey, did you see this? Oh, that was a good point here. Maybe you should whatever. And keeping that feedback is very important to me. But yeah, if you're a tribal punter and you just want to barrack for a team, you're playing sport, you're not doing politics, that's fine. There's other podcasts for you. There's other Instagram pages for you. That's fine. I'm not here to change your mind. You're going to vote for P-Duts or Albo no matter what they do. That's fine. Do it. I'm not telling you any different. You do what you're going to do.
Fuck, it's a very good point. Actually, what we will finish on, all these billboards, so it looks like it's been fun. It's
so fun.
Punters funded, hey?
Yeah, 85 grand from just crowdfunding. I was aiming for I was like, maybe I can get one billboard. What do I need? 5-6 grand? And then it ended up like getting 25. And then I was like, oh man, I'll put it at 30. And then I did an Instagram reel about being, whoa, we raised 30 grand. That's probably like 2 or 3 billboards.
Yeah.
And then from that post, it just went to 85 grand.
Fuck.
And so I went back to the blokes who were booking the billboards. I'm like, guys, we got an extra 50 grand. They're like, all right, let's start booking billboards. So all clearly people, like the fact that politicians can ignore this when punters are going to put their money on the line just to tell other punters about what's going on.
Yeah.
Like you can't ignore this, right? And if you do, they'll pay a political consequence. And if the Labor's primary vote keeps dropping and they want it to go up, they need to change what they're doing.
We do have the federal election coming up at some point, and there's plenty of things to talk about, I guess, in that. But most importantly, it's probably voting. So one thing we've been pushing is that your vote is important.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say to listeners about voting and how they can best navigate what they're meant to do?
That's exactly right. We have the best voting system in the world, one of the best. In America, they come to you each once every 4 years and go, would you like a kick in the nuts or would you like just to chop it off? What would you like? You know? And you go, oh, geez, I have to choose. And if you don't choose, they'll choose for you. Whereas in Australia, they ask you and you get to say, oh, you know what? Like I prefer not doing any of that. That would be nice. Oh, then you get to rank it. And then at the end of the day, if you're in an area where there's a lot of tribal punters and they're all going to vote the same way, you will still get to decide between slap in the face, kick in the nuts, whatever. You get to choose. Yeah. And your vote will go to the person who stands the best chance that aligns most with you. That's kind of like a really simple butchering way of saying it. So it bloody matters. It's simple. It's the best. Yeah. And I just say, just make sure, like I said to you before, make sure the person you're voting for is going to do what they've said. Because we're tired of politicians saying they'll do something and they don't do it. So theyvoteforyou.org. Look up your politician. Look at how they voted. To be honest, ignore all TV commercials. Ignore all ads. Ignore all memes. If these memes make you feel emotional, oh yeah, F that guy, oh Peter Dutton's such an idiot, blah, ignore it because that's programming you without substance. Like, yeah, it might be funny to see, Peter Dutz, go on his fundraiser while Brisbane floods or Albo, whatever Albo's done lately, buying that house for $5 million or whatever. It's emotional crap. What I care about is how they voted in Parliament for me, and I can look at that. So just make sure whoever you vote for is going to do what they said. That's what I would say. And look at who gives them money. That's a big part for me.
Well, for me, initially, if there was one politician who just didn't slander the rest of them and just said, this is what I'm going to do because this is what I see what's going wrong, I'd probably just go, you've got it.
There are some good politicians that are doing that. But you have to start looking at them.
You have to look.
It's a long Senate sheet, and I'm like one of those political nerds where I'm like, I do a postal vote so I can just sit at home and be like, Google.
It's the biggest.
Ooh, okay.
It's the biggest ick I've seen when you see like a Labor Party thing and they're like, he has done this and that and that. You're like, well, what are you going to do? Please just give me. Yeah. But mate, fucking loved having you on. Really good to have a chat. And mate, anytime you're over, fucking jump on and come have a chat over there.
Yeah, if you're a newie.
Before you finish up, anything you want to plug and give a shout out to?
We've got the billboards around Melbourne, Sydney, so keep an eye out. Tag me in a post. I'll give it a share if I find it in my mess of a DM.
Did you get some shows coming up?
Got some Melbourne shows coming up. 10th, 11th, 12th of 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th of April.
What are you doing with them? Like, are they fun or they're
like... like a bit of fun, politics. Like, I get a bit ranty. So a bit of ranty, a few jokes, trying to make politics fun. But like, hey, you're here because you care a little bit about politics. Let's talk about some high level. If you're going to care about politics, here are the things you probably care about. Yeah. And have a bit of fun with it. So that's the sort of show there. I need to diversify my skills. So I'm like, I'll challenge myself. I'll give it a go. And let's see how it goes. And then I got a pub quiz coming up in Sydney. So if you're a Sydney punter, just go to punterspolitics.com and you'll see all the stuff there.
Is that themed like on politics?
Yeah. I was like, this fits perfect. Like the pub quiz teamed up with like weekly 50 guys. And so I'd be in the pub right before the election. What better time to do a pub quiz on politics? Yeah. So we might do one in Melbourne as well. So keep an eye out. If that kind of stuff interests you, trying to make politics understandable and fun, that's the goal. That's it.
Oh, mate, pub quizzes are great. Everyone loves a pub quiz.
Yeah, who doesn't?
I'm going to quickly plug my event, Return to Zero. We touched on where I'm going with life at the moment, and it is about healing your health and traumas and coming back to this point where you're able to sort of move forward and into a better version of you. And one thing I think that a lot of people struggle with is they don't address the traumas and they don't address their health when they start to step into this new version of themselves. So they take these old limiting self-beliefs and health issues into that new version. You're just going to fall back into those old self-destructive patterns. So this event I've got 6 keynote speakers that are going to help you with psychedelics, chronic illness, gut biome health. We've got hypnotherapy. We've got the nervous system with breath work. And I always forget one. Holistic health in general with Whole Foods. I've got all the bases covered, and the audience members can ask them questions through Q&A at the end of their talk. So tickets are available now online on our website, in our bio. Return to Zero. It's going to be a lot of fun. April 11th at Planet Royale. So aside from that, thank you so much for joining us, mate. And I love what you're doing. Keep spreading the good word, and we'll have you back on no time.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Legend.